and he with the pump fake and a one dribble inside to the long two, and he makes it. That's been his game his whole career. But look at him smiling. We go, my bad. The long two.
Welcome everyone to another episode of The Long Two. I am Pete Rogers. He is Natty Wallach, and we are a Carmelo Stanthony podcast, and occasionally talk fantasy basketball, though I haven't done that in a long time. Natty, how you doing today?
Howdy and what's up? Yeah, fantasy. Jesus.
Remember that thing? Remember how that was like the origin of this show?
My main league, we still haven't really come to a decision on how we're treating the fantasy season. Like, we don't know if we're going to do an asterisk, if we're just going to say do-over. Yeah, we just haven't decided. I imagine a bunch of leagues are like that.
My main league, I guess ESPN just decided that the winner is whoever had the best record, which was like, not a fan of that. I mean, I placed third, but I was still like, no.
Yeah, I think most dynasty leagues are going to be like, let's just have a discussion and try to come to some kind of agreement.
So even though there's no fantasy basketball to talk about, there is
no more Melo.
Plenty. I know. Well, there's still hope. We're going to talk about the future of the Oklahoma City Thunder on the second half of this podcast. Maybe we'll see a Chris Paul Carmelo Knicks team in 2021. Who says no?
I think Melo might. He seemed like if Portland wants him back, it sort of seems he wants to go back.
Yeah, I don't go back to New York, Melo. But before we talk about that, we do have to. I'm going to start this show, Natty. Dr. Stethoscope is on.
Like, take a pull off of one. Yeah. Oh, you're going doctor. I thought you were going to go full rant. Okay, sorry.
We're gonna start doctor. We're gonna start with the stethoscope.
Sure.
We're gonna start Dr. Pete, because I do say, like, it has gotten lost on me a little bit, but this Raptors Celtics series has been fucking incredible. Like, every single, except for the one blowout game the Celts had, like, every game has been tight, contested, back and forth, tremendous defense. Like, neither of these teams are backing down or letting the other one get the upper hand. Like, this is a fucking battle from tip off to double overtime. And last night's game 6, Dr. Pete says, was an incredible viewing experience. And I can completely understand how, if you are an unbiased member of the basketball community and watching that game, you were like, Jesus, this is like gorgeous, beautiful, double overtime. It can't get more exciting than this. So I'm starting off with a positive note, Natty, and putting positive vibes out there that it should be stated how incredible this series has been and how much it's lived up to the hype.
Completely agree. This is reminiscent of the Bulls Celtics series from 10 years ago, 12 years ago. The Clip Spurs series. Like, this is just fucking great, aside from game 1. And the most interesting thing I thought about last night's game was, if Gordon Hayward were playing, he really would have helped out some of those gassed players at the end. Yeah. 4 of the Celtics' 5 starters had 50-plus minutes. And B, maybe this series sucks if Gordon Hayward is playing. Like, maybe it's a Boston blowout. Maybe Toronto destroys them because Gordon's shot isn't there or something. Like, there's... I don't want to say Ewing theory, but I do think that it's interesting how good the series has been, even though he's not there. And he's one of the best players in the he's upper echelon of players in the NBA.
I think you're totally right, because I think the addition of Gordon would push this to either side of the middle, right? I don't think this series would be as tight, as much of a battle as even if Gordon was in. Either I think he would swing the pendulum far to the Celtics way, and we would just see the Celtics win maybe in like 5, and there'd be 1 or 2 close games. Or, as we've seen in the past, where the addition of Gordon just like limits the minutes of Jalen, limits the minutes of Smart, limit those minutes to the point where they just can't quite get into a rhythm. And that ultimately sinks the Celtics, and they're unable to kind of get what we've seen, which has been, God damn it, this emergence of Jaylen Brown. And Tatum has been a little, but Marcus Smart and JB have been on point this series.
They were the only two players of the starting five with a positive plus minus last night.
They were incredible last night. Before I take the stethoscope off and we just talk about things, Natty, because I've got this is going to be a cathartic episode for me. I have lots to vent about.
Let's just talk it out. It's therapy.
I do want to. We should spend a little time talking about the Raptors and just talking about how this team was down 0-2. You know, came back in a huge game 3 to win that, then won game 4, then took game 6, obviously, in double overtime, really thanks to Kyle Lowry. Like, it's been Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet who have emerged. I mean, Fred VanVleet especially, and Kyle Lowry, this team was supposed to be Pascal Siakam, right? That was it. That was the passing of the torch from Kawhi to Pascal, and we were going to finally see. He missed the series last year. He missed the playoffs last year. It's like, this is Pascal's moment. And Kyle Lowry has been like, no, sorry, this is my series. Like, I am still the face of the Toronto Raptors, even with the torch seemingly being passed to Pascal Siakam. So credit to where credit's due. I keep saying Kawhi and Kyle are too similar. They're too similar, Natty. Lowry has certainly put his balls on the line for this series, and as they have treated him well.
Leonard and Lowry sounds like an awesome buddy cop show, by the way, or like private.
Almost as good as DeMar and Kyle. Kyle and DeMar. Still one of the greatest tragedies of the NBA in the last 5 years that those two besties were separated.
It's especially because of like what ended up happening for Kyle, but not for DeMar.
I know. So crushing.
But man, last night when the second overtime started, I was just thinking, Jesus, Pete and I were so right before the season started with how we felt about Toronto, because this is how a champion plays.
Yeah. When
their backs are against the wall, they remember who they are, and they work harder, and they try to be smarter, and it was pretty ugly from the fourth quarter on for a lot of that game, and especially you could just tell how tired people were, especially in the first overtime. Like, I think people sort of got a fifth wind for the second one, but like, people weren't running back to defend.
Right.
Like,
it was just open. It was like everyone was struggling to score at the end of the fourth. And then the first overtime was just everyone just draining shots like wild.
And it's just that sort of like, it wasn't a rock fight. It was just a hard fought battle. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, both these teams are so well coached, and they have such smart players. They're so good at defense. Both these teams are so good at defense. Toronto was good on defense even without having the defensive player of the year, Marc Gasol, he just can't play in this series. Really, he's not. He made that one.
Yeah,
three
when the
early
Raptors
on.
went small, that was tough.
Yeah,
like that was
OG
Tice,
at center.
Yeah, Tice was able to take advantage on the boards, and they did a couple of alley-oops to him, which were made me ecstatic.
That Marcus Smart pass inside, where it was just like, no, you're taller than him.
Oh my God! But
he had a triple double last night. I mean, I know double overtime, but still,
it's all right. I'm starting to take the stethoscope, starting to fall. It blows my mind. It enrages me that the Celtics lost that game. It enrages me that Marcus Smart's performance goes down in a double overtime loss, because he was fucking incredible that game. Fucking incredible. So is JB. Jalen was also just shooting light. I mean, he had a little slump, but it was also just rising to the occasion. But Marcus fucking Smart, man. Like, I cannot say enough about what he means to the Celtics, to like basketball. I mean, first team all defense. Thank God. Like, thank you. thank you. That's an evergreen thing now. Like he's going to be winning that every single year. Like things are just clicking for him. And I think Marcus is going to be a whole new player next year. And I cannot wait for it.
If I were Houston, I'd trade anything to have Marcus Smart with Harden. But my favorite thing about Smart last night was when he fouled, quote unquote, Lowry, and Lowry didn't flop, but like Marcus Smart's expression while they were reviewing it was just chef's kiss. It was so, because obviously Smart does bullshit too. Like everybody does bullshit. All these guards,
Lowry and Smart together is just, and I saw this. This was Wob tweeted this out where it was just the two Spider-Man memes falling on the ground, and it's just when Lowry and Smart face each other, they both bitch about the other flopping, and they both flop.
Totally, it's just like the OKC Thunder or the OKC Houston series. Right. Like everyone's flopping everywhere. Anytime
CP3 argues about anything and then does the exact same thing.
In my opinion, though, CP3 gets to do whatever he wants because of that untucked jersey thing. Like that's just an all-timer. That should be in the Hall of Fame. That is such an incredible moment. Look, his shirt's undone. But okay, Jaylen Brown led all players in rebounds last night. Kind of helpful. I understand why you would be upset about this game if you're a Celtics fan, because
should we get into it? Should we dive into why I'm upset about this game?
Dude, if this is the hardest game that the new Celtics have ever had to play. And they lost.
And they lost
by 3 and they didn't have a player.
One person lost the Celtics this game. You know who that person is, Natty?
Well, it's not me.
No, you did not lose the Celtics this game.
Is it Brad Wanamaker?
His name is Tony fucking Brothers.
Yeah.
That there were okay.
Sure. You lost by one bucket. Like there's take it. Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that Kemba Walker got manhandled, smacked to the fucking ground on that final drive at the end of regulation, and the whistle suddenly, magically, the whistle choking the refs in the middle of their throat because they swallow it, despite the fact that they were whistling every little ticky-tack thing, and yet, game on the line, Kemba Walker, all 6 feet of him, goes charging into the paint, gets rocked back of the head by OG Anunoby, clear as day, hits the ground, hits the deck. Everyone in the fucking gym saw that was a foul, and the refs are like, no, it's actually Raptors ball. Somehow, some way. Magic. Fucking magic.
With Lowry, calling timeout even before the ball was in
anybody's hands. Before the ball's in his possession!
Incredible. That's how bulldog and smart he is. And, Kemba had a bad game, and I think that's why they didn't. No, but I think that's why, if he had been on fire, I think he gets that call. He ended last night's game with 5 points in 52 minutes.
Yeah. Kemba was
if you want that call, make some shots. I sort of feel I get it.
In a game where Kyle Lowry fucking was shooting the lights out all of a sudden, and Kemba gave us absolutely nothing. It is amazing that the Celtics were in that game, right? I mean, it's just that was a tough game anyways, but God damn, that final no call. And then there are 2 other moments that I will not be able to forgive Tony Brothers for the rest of existence. Jason Tatum drives to the basket and gets called for an offensive foul because he tucks his shoulder into, I think it was Powell. It's either Powell or Van Fleet.
Oh, it was Norm. We're going to talk about Norm.
So he tucks his shoulder into Norm. Norm does his little stumble, sells it, offensive foul. Fine. Literally the next play, the Raptors going down. It's Pascal Siakam, I think, is driving and does the shoulder into Tatum or Jaylen. It was Jaylen because Jaylen was covering him all day. And the refs called the foul on Jaylen. The exact same thing happened. And the refs
he already had a few at that point, I think.
Oh, my God. I understand bad calls can happen, and we haven't even touched on Nick Nurse humping the fucking corner of the goddamn court, pretending to be a basketball player, and Tatum throws the ball at him. But I understand bad calls happen. That's never my issue. Like, you make a bad call, shit happens. Refs, I don't pretend that it's easy to ref a professional sports game. Like, it's gotta be extremely impossible. But for the love of God, at least be wrong consistently. Like, if you're not going to call it, don't call it then when it happens literally seconds later.
Right, like an umpire with the strike zone. If your strike zone's going to be big, fine, but it's big the whole game.
Yes. Yep. 100%.
And for both sides.
I don't have a problem with that. If you're going to fuck up or you want to, if you want to call ticky-tack calls all game long, call ticky-tack calls all game long. But don't go swallowing the whistle with 3 minutes left because you don't want to be a part of the game. Well, then don't fucking be doing ticky-tack calls throughout the whole game, right? Like, anywho's, that's I have voiced most of my Celtics frustration. It's just it sucked to watch a game in which Marcus Smart was just putting it all out there. Jalen was playing out of his mind. Like, this team was there. It was there for the taking, and it went into double overtime. And ultimately, the biggest takeaway is that the refs were involved. The refs played a part in it. And it's a shitty argument to make. I don't like making it, but like, you shouldn't have, it sucks leaving that game being like, that wasn't like the two best teams bashing it out and this was the result. It was like the two best teams bashing it out and one team got a slight nudge when it mattered most. And now it's all into a game 7, which is going to literally give me a heart attack.
And it's hard not to think that, like, all of a sudden the East has 3 good teams that are still in it and the West don't. Like, I kind of feel like the rosters in the East that are left are maybe on the whole just as good, if not better, than the Western teams. And
yeah,
at this point,
things are kind of swapped around there. Oh no, I was just going to say things have kind of swapped there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Boston just looks so good, and they're so young, and the Heat looks so good, and they're constructed so well, and the Raptors look so good, and they're the champions. Whereas out in the West, it's like, okay, you need playoff Rondo in order to beat a Houston team that you're sort of shutting down, but if their shots start going in, who knows? The Clippers are game to game. I mean, Denver is not as good as any of the 3 East teams that are left. And I don't know. I think this is maybe going to be the best series in the playoffs. And I sort of feel like if Boston had played that game against any of the other teams that are still in the bubble, I think they would have won. I think this was the Raptors winning more than the Celtics losing. I get all the ref stuff. I totally do.
I think you're totally right. I think
if you took double overtime, shit.
If you took this performance and just like put it against any other team currently in the playoffs, do the Celtics lose that game? I don't know. I will say though, what I'm
so good.
What I'm absolutely terrified about is game 7. Just this whole series is exhausting, and the Heat have slightly broken a sweat. Jimmy Butler is like perspiring a little bit, but has had plenty of time to dab at it. And whomever comes out of this game is just going to, like, we thought that they were going to face a Bucks team that was vulnerable, right? That the Raptors and Celtics, whoever won that game, was going to win the East because they were facing a vulnerable Bucks team. And the Heat took advantage and knocked out that vulnerable Bucks team. And now it's just like, I'm not thrilled that I want the Celtics obviously to win game 7, but I also think that it's then no sure bet that they're going to make it to the finals because they're going to be just exhausted, and Jimmy Buckets and that Heat team are going to be like, this is like, let's go for it. Let's just, foot on the throat and finish them.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the NBA will give 2 days in between the end of this series and the beginning of the Eastern Conference Finals, whereas usually it would just be one.
Yeah.
Again, like before the season, we were talking about how dangerous Miami could be. These teams are they're really well constructed. They have dudes that know how to penetrate. And just for a second to go back to Boston.
Yeah.
Here are the 3 players that took free throws for Boston last night. Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown. Nobody else went to the line. That's unacceptable. Kemba Walker has to, you have to be able to penetrate and try to get contact. And he did. Bless his heart. He did.
He did every single time he tried, and he didn't get a single call.
Dude, 2 for 11 from the floor, 1 for 6 from there. It wasn't falling for him last night. But you have to try to manufacture points if you're going to be the point guard of the team. That's why you guys were even in the game, is because during the first quarter, Marcus Smart just sort of realized something, was like, all right, I'm the point guard now. Kemba, it's just not, and he was the distributor for the rest of the game. He ended up with 10 assists, which I think is more than anybody. Yeah, he was the assist leader in the game. Marcus was. It's not Kemba just came out after the previous game saying it's unacceptable for me to shoot that. If your shot isn't going in, you have to be able to get to the line. And that's going to be, I think, a fundamental factor of all of the playoff games going forward in both conference finals. It's like the Heat have shooters everywhere, but they also have really smart defenders. And I think that's the common thread with all the 3 East teams that are left. Everybody's a really good defender.
Yeah,
Not
dude,
sure I feel that way about the Western teams.
This East is, this is a fucking incredible. It's been a ton of fun to watch. And
if the Bucks had Brogdon, who knows?
Yeah. Oh, I do know. They wouldn't have been beaten in 5 games or 5 games.
They needed
this
one more.
This is why normally I try to get paid for these things, Natty, but I'm going to offer just a little bit of free advice to NBA owners and GMs and general roster builders out there.
Benevolent Pete.
Pay the good players on your team. There. That's some free advice for you. Just
hard agree. I would take that advice if I ran a team.
Just a thought that I kind of crapped up into my head, and I was like, I'm going to put this out there. Maybe you should pay your best players. So,
there's a lot of things wrong with the Bucks, and I'm sure we'll have an off-season discussion about it. But the 3 teams that are left in the East all play like 3 teams that could win the finals. Mm-hmm. And they have wave attacks. There were a couple of people that didn't play last night for Toronto. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson is on Toronto, Stan John, Terrence Davis. But Norm Powell had 23 points last night. He went to the line 9 times. That's second only to Jason Tatum. That's
pretty easy
how
to go
you
to
fucking win.
You're getting all the calls. Just saying.
Yeah, but they won by 3, and he went 8 for 9 from the line. It's not just getting the calls; it's capitalizing on it, which is something that the Lakers don't generally do.
Tatum missed 3 free throws.
Yeah,
he missed 3 free throws and then lost by 3. So
and no one else was really penetrating and taking contact. So that's.
I'm hoping that in Game 7, I'm hoping Game 7 is the Jason Tatum clicks into the Mamba mentality and is just like, fuck this, I'm not losing, because he looked off last night. He was not. He had some costly turnovers down the stretch. He missed those 3 free throws. He wasn't as that. He had one absolutely gorgeous 3-pointer that almost made me shit my pants, but late in the game. But he just seemed tentative. He didn't seem he looked like Tatum of 2019 flashed up again, which had me terrified. And I need Tatum that we've seen of 2020. I never thought these words would come out of my mouth, Natty, but I need the Tatum that learned under the tutelage of Kobe Bryant to show up in Game 7 on Friday.
I don't think you're wrong. Tatum shot
what needs to happen.
21 times last night. How many times do you think Jalen shot?
25.
30.
Damn.
He was 11 for 30
Damn.
last
Damn,
night.
Jalen.
Like, it's not just about Kemba and his shot selection. It's about, like, when Tatum and Kemba aren't shooting well, then I feel like Jalen and Marcus are like, well, fuck you. Like, then we'll do it. You know,
Right.
like, I feel like they're the duo, and then it's Kemba and Tatum. So I sort of feel like Game 7 is going to be Tatum and Kemba. And,
God,
Kemba will have, like, 25 points. Tatum will have close to 30.
God, I would love that.
But, like, Boston, Tatum started looking off when Toronto when Gasol took himself out. And then they went small.
Yeah.
And that changed the whole game.
Yeah, and they're going to do that. This Game 7 is going to be we've spent a lot of time obviously on this because tell me there's a better story going on in the NBA, right? Yeah. Tell me there's something better going on in the NBA. But we do want to talk about the Thunder and just kind of some of the uncertainty there, given that Billy Donovan's not returning. But
before we do, any final thoughts?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Oh yeah, okay.
What's your Game 7 prediction? What are your cojones telling you? Your loins.
Well, with Game 7s, I'm sticking with my boys. I'm going Toronto.
A terrible human, and I never want you back on this podcast.
I know, but I was like, if Norm Powell, he had 23 points last night, dude.
That's not happening again.
He came in and did exactly what they asked him to. OG
had a good game.
Like, it's kind of startling how good that team can look.
And there's part of me that is like absolutely terrified that Game 7 is going to
3 for 13 from 3. That probably won't happen again.
Yeah. Game 7 I'm terrified Game 7 is going to be the game that Pascal Siakam finally decides to be good. And I'm not here for it.
And if they don't play Gasol at all, like what if they just say we start small and then Serge comes in off the bench? It's scary. But positives. Theis did everything that Theis
Theis was great. Theis was looking so good. Anyways, my Game 7, I'm not picking against the Celtics. And I have trend, faith, whatever you want to call it on my side, random numbers as the away team, quote unquote away team, has won every single game this series, and the Celtics are the away team. Game 7.
Oh, that's interesting. That's so funny. That's cool. That's a good stat, actually.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm taking it. I'm taking that stat to the bank.
I do have one more thing.
Yeah.
If Boston loses, I think it will be due to the fact that losing a perimeter player.
Yep.
Like they're bench, like it's not. I mean, Wanamaker, he was 2 for 7 last night, and I just don't think that you want a guy like him out on the floor too much because like Marcus Smart and Kemba should be your distributors, and then you just shouldn't need him as much as they did last night. Granted, 2 overtimes. Romeo Langford, really terrible that he can't get 2 minutes or something. But I mean, that just goes if you had Hayward, this entire series could look different. Yeah.
Nope. You're totally right. I think that's going to be something that the Celtics are, whenever this offseason hits for them, that's going to have to be a top priority for them. It's just like Gordon Hayward. You can't rely on him playing. Just treat as if Gordon Hayward's not on the roster. And if he's there, that's a beautiful bonus. But the Celtics need depth at the wing position where if anything happens, there is someone who can come in and still give you serviceable minutes and score.
And I know some haters out there are going to be like, you could say that about every team. The Boston Celtics should consider themselves to be finals contenders next year, no matter what happens this year.
This is the window.
Lose, for sure. You're a real team. You strike fear into the hearts of all window. Other teams.
Go make your moves to go capitalize on it. And Danny Ainge will. You can't not tell me that Danny Ainge is going to put all of his gold pieces in the pot when the pot is hottest.
And I think that it's so hard to improve a good team. You know what I mean? Because it's not like they're not going to get Kawhi. You know, they're not going to get LeBron. Like, how do you actually improve?
Well, the Lakers are
like
pretty
this?
certain they're going to get Giannis. So, and so are the Clippers. So, you know, never say never.
But it's also like a player like that can negatively impact the other players on your team. So it's like, you know, say you guys got Embiid somehow. That means that you're not going to go as quickly. That means that sometimes he's not going to be able to play. That means
it's going to be finding a player who's an accomplished role player and knows and is very clear and knows exactly what their role is, because they tried this before, right? This was the whole Kyrie thing, where it was like we saw Tatum and Jalen emerge and being like, this is our team, we're doing this, let us lead. And then Kyrie came back and was healthy and was like, nah, sorry dudes, it's my team. And everything kind of fell apart. And I think Kemba has been great for this team because, like you said, when Smart was like, ooh, Kemba, I see something off, I'm taking over. Kemba was like, cool, do it. Like, I trust you, let's ride. And so that's what's going to need to happen. So they'll get someone who will fill that spot.
Can I say something that might upset you?
Okay.
Like player that would look pretty nice in Hayward's stead.
Yeah.
Is also a guy that kills the Celtics.
Is
if
it Chris
the Bucks
Middleton?
Decide to blow it up.
Yep. Hey man, I'll take Chris Middleton.
You know, he wouldn't look terrible there. And then he doesn't play against you.
That would be perfect. I am on board with that. That's the Bill Belichick method of like, this player has destroyed us when we've played against them, so we're going to sign him. It's like, yes,
it's like you can get to the playoffs with a fungible center. You know, like you don't need to have
they did.
a top. Yeah. So
give me Tyson and Time Lord all day long. That's fine. That's it.
Yeah. Just have a revolving door of, you know, whose game is going to, depending on matchups, who gets to play. That's fine. You don't spend a lot of money on it. And then maybe you try to make a trade during the season to try to help your front court, but just for matchups. You know, it's like having Marc Gasol in your back pocket. The Raptors didn't need him last night. Arguably, they shouldn't have played him at all. But he's still a fucking former defensive player of the year.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. There's all the Game 7 talk and all the Celtics Raptors talk that we could possibly fit into whatever 40 minutes that we're currently in. We are going to talk.
An amazing game.
It's going to be really good. It's going to give me a heart attack. It's my brother and his wife and my parents are coming up for the weekend, but they are going to watch it. And my brother is worse than I am when it comes to watching Celtics games. So my parents are going to be indoctrinated into their two sons shouting obscenities at the TV.
Don't have a gender reveal party and like burn the whole goddamn place down.
Yeah, we'll do our best. All right, we're going to take a quick ad break. All right, we are back. So I wanted to touch on the Thunder. That's what I wanted to kind of conclude the show with, because obviously it was maybe not a super surprise, but well, did you consider it a surprise, Natty, when you found out that Billy Donovan and the Thunder kind of had a parting of ways and that he won't be back next year?
I did. I thought that unless he wanted to leave, I sort of wondered, like, why not come back for one more year because of how uncertain things are going to be. But, you know, maybe they have their eye on someone. Maybe he knows he has another job offer. Maybe he just wanted to leave.
Yeah.
You know,
I do think that where the heads probably clashed, I have a feeling that the Thunder brass is like, hey, this year was great. What a lot of fun this was. But we are like in this retooling phase, and we are not trying to, like, everyone's trying to contend, but they're not trying to like be a serious presence in the West right now, because I think they want these young guys to develop. They want to use this huge stash of picks that they have from the Paul George trade. And I think they're going to move CP3. And like, I just feel like that's going to happen. And I could see Billy Donovan being like, no, I want to, like, what this feels like to me a little bit, not on the same level, obviously, but this feels a little like Last Dancey, where, you know, maybe Billy Donovan was like, I want to run this team back and see what we can do. And the brass was like, we want to kind of start the rebuild or the retooling. And so then they were like, okay, we're just going to go our separate ways. And I think you're right. I mean, I do think that I would be surprised if Billy Donovan did all of this without some sort of like back pocket handshake. We are, I've got something in the bag.
The upsetting thing about it is that when you succeed like the Thunder did, if you just get rid of all the context, you should just be like, well, yeah, of course you should run it back. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, Danilo Cincinnati Gallinari is coming off of your books. That means that you could go get someone else, or you could try to re-sign him to a reasonable. The OKC Thunder have the third highest payroll right now. So it's Portland, Miami. Okay, I'm on Spot Track if anybody wants to check this. OKC Thunder, Minnesota, hysterically.
Love
the Clippers. Cleveland, because of K-Love, Golden State, Wizards, amazing, Detroit, my God, Orlando. So all of that's going to change, obviously. But that's a good fucking team. And for real NBA heads like you and I, we knew it was a good fucking team before the season even started. It's okay to retool. It's okay to blow it up when you don't think that you have a chance or because, X, Y, or Z. But when you're good and you know that you have wiggle room and you could get better, then that's really disappointing. Like, Thunder fans are getting fucked again because it should be run back. You should be like, the first thing they should do is ask Steven Adams if he minds getting traded. And if they can figure out a trade to get them a little bit more money so that they can re-sign Gallo, and then you keep that, and then everybody's just a year better in terms of the rookies and the young guys. Like, no reason aside from context to not run it back. But the context matters. The ownership group has been extremely successful. Perhaps they've earned a season to try to restart. I think that's a little bit fair, even though fuck those guys because they stole the team from Seattle when they said they wouldn't.
Truth.
There's a real possibility that Chris Paul, despite everything that has been said and how well he did, maybe Chris Paul doesn't want to be there. Maybe he said, okay, I'm doing my hardest this year, then we're trading me. Gallinari's 31. Maybe they don't want to give him big money, even though I feel like he'll age well, at least as a shooter. But I mean, it's a little disappointing because if you're getting rid of your coach, who has done a good job, he had a winning percentage. He got the teams to the playoffs. If you're getting rid of him, then maybe that either means that you're like getting D'Antoni, or it means that you're getting rid of the team, I think, or at least changing the roster so that maybe a young coach that we've had our eye on comes in. But then do you want a young coach with CP3? I don't know.
No, I think CP3 is getting traded. I have a hard time believing that he's going to be on the roster come 2021.
Let me say this, devil's advocate, CP3 is sort of the guy that runs the team. He's sort of the coach anyway. Maybe he wants to stay. And Donovan was like, well, I don't want to just be window dressing. I don't want to be the coach in just name only. So if Chris is staying, then maybe it's time for me to move on.
Devil's advocate, maybe Chris Paul is going to retire and then go right into the position of being the Thunder's next head coach.
There's no way he's giving up $80 million for the next 2 years. Think about it this way. If it wasn't the OKC Thunder, if that roster was the Pistons, I think people would be seriously fucking concerned for the future of the team, for the future of the franchise. It's like, what do you mean you just got rid of the coach that's taken us to the playoffs and has learned to work with every single superstar
don't do
that's
this.
come through there? Yeah. But because it's Oklahoma City and because they've had so much success for so long, I kind of feel like maybe ownership is like, this is our one chance. Because if we start another team that's good again, then people will be less forgiving. It's almost like they are giving the fans the benefit of the doubt and being like, listen, we have SGA. We have the infrastructure to get good again, and we draft well, and how successful we've been.
Right.
Please just trust us this 1 year, and we'll be back in 2.
Yeah. I think that, to me, that makes the most sense. And I have to feel like the Thunder did this with someone in mind. And I don't know if that's I can't remember. Shoot, I saw somewhere that Becky Hammon has been mentioned as a possible head coaching candidate, but I don't know if it was for. Oh, it was for the Pacers. I think for the Pacers is something. Which I mean, I feel like is going to get has to like it's not even is going to, but like has to get a gig within the next couple of years, right?
I think that all depends on the players. If you're comfortable having a woman in the locker room when you're naked, then okay. If you're not, then they probably won't hire her.
Yeah. Well,
like
she certainly has the talent to be an NBA head coach.
Sure, absolutely. But as we've seen with coaches of all stripes and colors, like the players, if they don't like the coach, the coach is usually not going to be there unless you're the Chicago Bulls.
Right.
What?
But the Bulls didn't like their coach? That's weird.
I know. Maybe they're going to hire Genius Jim. Becky Hammond is a good coach, obviously. She keeps getting used though. I mean, she gets used as
she's
like Rooney Rule cover, just like a bunch of the other coaches of color. So, I'll believe it when I see it, basically.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. So I had to think the Thunder have a plan. If the Thunder do trade CP3, the best landing spot for him, Natty, is, in your opinion?
The best? I mean, the best is on one of the LA teams.
You think? Because I think it's
sure.
I think it's the Bucks just being like, Giannis, we heard you. We're sorry.
See, I sort of feel like the Bucks front court is the problem. And like they know, like we all know that the backcourt didn't do well and they should have kept Brogdon. I sort of feel in retrospect that they fell in love with Brolo's excellent 3-point shooting year. And we're like, he's a perimeter player, so we'll pay him and center and we'll get his brother too. And hey, ditto. I love Brolo. I love Brook Lopez more than anybody. But he's not a perimeter player, and he's not a perimeter defender, rather.
Yeah.
And that's what you actually need more than ever. You need guys that can like run in between the basket and the 3-point line swiftly, rather than a dude like Brolo who, takes several seconds. CP3 has 2 more years left with his option after this for $41 million and then for $44 million. That makes it difficult to find a team for him because you need to have that amount of space. I don't think he would want to go to a shitty team that has a lot of space for no reason.
Naturally.
I'm wondering if maybe a team like money's coming off the books for Toronto. If Fred VanVleet left, would that be a spot for CP3?
Interesting. But then would you not feel like there's kind of going to be a butting of the heads in Kyle Lowry and CP3 in terms of alpha dog?
I don't know though, because like those two dudes seem to respect each other a hell of a lot, and they both had to like grind to get where they are.
Yeah.
It also seems like Toronto's like having 2 ball handlers has really, really worked for them. Having 2 distributors out there,
that's super true.
Really, really works. So, and if Kemba's shot had been falling last night, then that really, really works with him and Marcus Smart too.
Yep.
So I think having 2 distributors is good. 2 ball handlers, 2 people that can create offense. CP3, like, he's not going to go to Houston, obviously. He's not going to go to Phoenix unless you trade Rubio, which fine. Sure. If he wants to team up with that team, sure. Right on. That's cool. Utah, no. Portland, no. Sacramento, no. Miami, maybe.
Interesting. I could see that.
Right. Like but then you'd have to be trading like several of the dudes that help that wave attack. So it's
for the Thunder, you're going to be getting some nice pieces back if you trade with Miami, so they would love that.
Yeah. But how about something that would be a little bit sentimental? How about back to New Orleans? How about we take Drew back? Maybe Lonzo too.
Do you feel like the bad blood has subsided? Because let me tell you, very few people in this league hold a grudge quite like Chris Paul.
Sure, but there's bad blood, and then there's Zion and Brandon Ingram.
Yes.
So also the owner when he was playing there is dead, right? It's his wife who's in charge now. So maybe
that's true.
That doesn't matter as much. Also, like Katrina, that's one of the reasons why Chris Paul in OKC and Houston was also sentimental, because of the trio of cities around what happened during the hurricane. But it's just like, you don't want to, Minnesota, no. Indiana, no. So Chicago, maybe Chicago.
Interesting.
Like, that could be a big market team that could probably make that trade, right?
Yeah, I could see that. And maybe what if hear me out. What if the Chicago Bulls sign Billy Donovan as their head coach and trade for CP3?
That's funny. That would be great. That would be so Chicago. There is one out of left field that
I'm here
I wanted
for it.
to ask you about.
I'm here for it. Don't tell me Kemba for the Celtics.
No. CP3 for Kristaps.
Oh.
Because then you have two distributors, but one of them's a forward, and one of them's the point guard. Kristaps being 7'2" and like injuries, and I don't know.
I guess the main question is does that accelerate the Mavericks timeline too quickly?
Right, because then it's like, okay, well, we have Chris Paul, good backcourt, sort of.
Well, it's like Chris Paul realistically has 3 prime years left, or 3 good years left, maybe?
Yeah, his next contract will be like you're on the downward.
Right. So the question is like, if you're trading Kristaps, a young Latvian player paired with another young Latvian player, both under contract, if you're trading Kristaps for CP3, then you think that the addition of CP3 makes the Mavericks a finals contender in the next 2 to 3 years. And I'm not sure
for 2 reasons.
That. Oh, okay.
Kristaps may be younger, but is just as not injury prone, but just as vulnerable to injury.
Injuries are obviously will forever be a part of his career.
As you said, he is under contract, but he's under contract for longer than CP3. If you make that trade, then you're out of the contract in 2 years. And if it doesn't work out, Luka's still just 7 years old. Like, you have plenty of, and then you have a ton of cap room to maybe get somebody else.
Yeah.
So, and it's Dallas, and they do shit like that all the time. The fact that they have Luka.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these instances where like you hit the draft and you're like, great, now we're playing with house money. Let's kind of just like throw pieces around him and see what happens. Now, ultimately, you don't want to what happened with Anthony Davis in New Orleans, where they traded for Jrue Holiday, I think, too soon. I think you needed like 2-3 years of Anthony Davis, like having the Pelicans be really shitty. I mean, it's kind of the Timberwolves method where I don't know if this is just the Timberwolves through just bad roster construction or if this was an organized plan, but it's like, let's be shitty for the first couple of years of this all-stars career. We can then collect draft capital. We can then collect, play a lot of young players, let them develop, and then hit the ground running and let's do something. I mean, they have the first overall pick. Obviously this draft there's no clear number one guy, so it's not the best draft to have to win first overall, but you've got that along with D'Angelo Russell and Big Cat. So it would be interesting to see whether or not Mark Cuban, I think, is an owner who would do something like that, who would be like, I just saw Chris Paul take this like not no name, but this team that
Steven Adams was the only person left on that
well,
team.
I mean, we
Danilo
love SGA. We love SGA.
Sure,
so
but
he's been but yes, a no-name team to the playoffs in the West, which has been, widely regarded as one of the more difficult division, it's the more difficult conference to get into the playoffs, to be a top, 8 team there. I like it. I like it as a super sleeper team, and one that maybe people aren't going to necessarily, because I feel like the Knicks, the Bucks, any of the LA teams are going to obviously be batted around as like, these are clear cuts. Maybe even the Sixers as like, let's try to fix things with Joel and build around those two. But I like them as a dark horse. Like maybe it is Luka with another, ball distributor in the backcourt, and they can figure out the front court from there. Because you're right, Kristaps, while being the unicorn and showing flashes of it this year, there's worry of a 7'2" man getting older, and you have and a big contract that you're not going to be able to get out from under as he gets older.
It's so hard for teams when they have young stars that they know can just get them to the playoffs on their own. It's so hard to thread the needle where you keep enough ammo dry so that you can always replenish every season, but also try to surround them with players that will make them better and that will improve their play and that will give them success, which they are going to want. If you don't give them success, they're probably not going to stay. If you give them too many vets, then you don't have any room to maneuver.
Yeah.
So it's so hard. Most teams fail, even good teams, even a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. Turns out they drafted really, really, really shitty since Giannis. They took Jabari in front of Joel Embiid. They made really shitty decisions. They gave big money when they didn't need to, and they got rid of good young players when they didn't need to, and they still almost got to the Eastern Conference Finals because of how good their players are. It's with a team like the Mavericks, where Luka is a baby, but is one of the best 7 players in the league right now, I would be like, yo, Luka, we're going to try to shoot the moon with you. And then if it doesn't work out, you'll still only be 22 and we'll have another 13 years to rebuild and you get all the money and like blah, blah, blah. Also, Kristaps Porzingis, could he have played in the Raptors Celtics game?
No,
he could not.
Yeah. It also, I mean, there's also like, how much would you love even just the 2 years of CP3 being able to pass all of his knowledge on to Luka?
Yeah.
Like, let's also talk about Luka, 5-year-old Luka absorbing the knowledge of the point guard. That would be pretty fucking absurd and dangerous and scary for the rest of the league.
And like, one of the things that people don't talk about CP3 enough, in my opinion, is that he knows how to play with superstars. He knows how to play with exceptionally
I mean, think about it. Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin. And then he went to Houston with James Harden and now is OKC is.
And New Orleans wasn't a trash fire when he was there. It's like he makes teams better. He always does. It seems like every team should want him. And also, his contract is extremely expensive over the next 2 years. It's just 2 years. Yeah. Like if it doesn't work out next year, you can trade him. So I think whoever gets him, they're going to be extremely happy. If he went to Milwaukee and they were able to keep Middleton and Giannis, then I think that team is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, that would be a good fucking team. All right. Well, there you go. That's all I've got. Any final parting thoughts?
Well, it's Lakers Houston tonight. Lakers are up 2-1. This is
Natty's
Thursday evening.
Tell you about the game once everyone's already seen it while listening to this.
Right. I'm just wondering do you think it gets tied tonight, or do you think the Lakers go up 3-1?
I think Lakers go up 3-1. I mean, especially since what's his name isn't playing.
Daniel House. Yeah.
Daniel House.
Whoops. That's a little rough.
Gotta
Dude, but playoff Rondo. This is, as a Celtics fan, you remember
I do love me some playoff Rondo.
Right.
Playoff Rondo is
in
a rare
certain
beast.
playoff series, he was better than LeBron James 10 years ago.
In every playoff series he has been, Rondo is the best player. He is somehow just in the playoffs. That man hits a whole nother level, and
he plays better on national television. I love how cantankerous and old manny he seems.
He's from like the instant he entered the league. Like that was
totally.
and that's why it was just like incredible. Speaking of like beautiful partners of mentors, the fact that he and KG spent significant seasons together is just chef kiss, because the two of those guys are just made it will forever crush my soul that KG and Marcus Smart didn't overlap.
There's KG, my God, I feel like still
KG and Marcus. I love KG.
And if we could see a KG today that had grown up like trying to develop a 3-point shot, like a deadly one, just unreal,
unstoppable. He would be unstoppable. All right. Well, make sure you subscribe to the Fake Teams podcast wherever you get your podcasts: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. That is where you'll not only find us, but also fantasy baseball and fantasy football. So if you play either of those, make sure you tune in. Also, I realize we haven't been saying this. We are also a website. Just throwing it out there. If you want, if you're not a list, if you're like, I'd love to read more, well, faketeams.com. We cover all fantasy sports. So make sure you check us out. Follow us on Twitter at the Long2 Podcast. And Natty, I will possibly talk to you next week. We'll see. We'll see how Game 7 goes. It could be that you are now doing this podcast solo from here on out.
Hug your family. Tell them you love them. I hope you get through it.
Thank you.
And, enjoy. Like, this is just one of the best series in a long time. And I was just so happy. I was so happy it didn't end with the bad shit at the end of regulation. They got 2 more tries.
Yeah. Game 7 is going to take years off my life. Until next week.
All right, bud. Stay safe. Be healthy.